Good morning, Oracles. The sun is bright today with us being up 8% yesterday. What an amazing day, all due to the discussions of a stock split coming for Tesla. Now, we do not have an official announcement for the split yet. This is just an announcement of the shareholder meeting that is going to be coming up to discuss whether shareholders are going to allow the issuance of more shares to allow for a stock split. So this is still great news, moving in the right direction, something we've discussed many times on here. We knew a split was going to be coming at some point. We just weren't sure when, and now we can see the next step is taking place. So when is this annual meeting going to happen? Well, last year the annual meeting was in October. Back in 2020, it was in September. Prior to that, it was in June or July, and that has been when they usually had it, and the only reason it got pushed until September or October was due to COVID. So now the question is, are they going to move the annual meeting back up to June, or are they going to have it in September or October? We should find out on May 2nd. Gary Black had tweeted out that they have the proxy coming out on May 2nd, which should announce the annual meeting date. So we should find out then. So obviously the split's not going to happen between now and then because it needs to be voted on first. So we should find out May 2nd when that vote is going to take place. When that vote takes place, we will see the results of that vote, and then they can announce the split if the shareholders agree to it. And now, judging by the sentiment around the stock movement yesterday, based upon the fact that we were up 8% on very high volume, tells me that the shareholders are going to approve this, and we will see a stock split this year. Now, a couple of dates that I play in my head are, if we do get the annual shareholder meeting in June, we vote on it, there's a potential chance that we see that stock split happen at the end of August, like we saw the last split. If that does not happen, then we should see the split happen sometime in late Q3 or early Q4. That was actually my original date for a stock split prediction. So we'll see. I was guessing this year around then. With new information, I was guessing late summer. So I'm guessing it's going to be one of those two dates for a stock split. We will just have to wait and see what happens. Now, for those of you who have not seen, Andrej Karpathy is on a 4-month sabbatical right now. I guess he's touring all over Europe, taking some time away from Tesla. You know, I don't know if this is him stepping away. I mean, he's the one who's basically in charge of building FSD. So I don't know if maybe they're comfortable enough in the progression of it where Andrej can step away and let them kind of progress where it's at. Maybe he's just got to clear his head. Maybe he's doing some touring of Europe to kind of gauge how things are going over there to see, because they did say that they're going to be rolling out FSD in Europe later this year. So if Andrej is taking a sabbatical over in Europe, perhaps he's getting a lay of the land over there to prep them for FSD to go live in Europe later this year. And then my next question about him being on his sabbatical is, do we really need to have Andrej here for them to do a stock split? 4 months from now puts us at, let's see, April, May, June, July. So if he comes back in late July and they do a split in August, he would be back. So realistically, even if Andrej was needed to be around for a split, he would be here in August for it. So again, we'll see how this plays out. So now when it comes to the stock movement based on the split today, obviously great news, up on high volume. We did hit $1,100 or very close to it twice today. So we hit 1096 once, bounced up to 1097 a second time. And a lot of times what happens when you hit a resistance level, and $1,100 is a psychological resistance level, a lot of times it goes up a third time, and the third time is the charm. So it's either going to break through $1,100 and continue going up, or it's going to bounce off and come back down. Now, due to the split announcement news, we do have a monster gap that is between 1010 and 1065. This is on top of the gap down to 905 that we have, and that tiny gap that we do have down to 801. Now, 9 out of 10 times, gaps do fill. So my guess is 1 out of those 3 gaps is going to get filled. We don't know when, we don't know why. chances are if we bounce off of $1,100 hard and come back down tomorrow, we might fill that 10-10 gap. Thinking about the news that we got today, it wasn't an official split announcement. It was the announcement to announce a split. So yes, we obviously can see that this is most likely going to happen when a company makes these announcements. It does signify that the company feels very secure and strong with its foundation and fundamentals going forward, and the stock market then applauds that and runs up. So what ends up happening to a lot of traders is they see this, they get FOMO, fear of missing out, and then they buy in, which then drives the stock price even higher, and higher than it realistically should be at this time. Obviously, we can debate what the stock price should be at this time, but running up as much as it did in this short of a time period based upon this news could be excessive. And so a lot of times short-term traders, especially retailer traders, will get into this, and then the stock gets pulled back really hard, and then these traders miss out and they get stuck holding the bag. So if you're a long-term investor, not a big deal, just hold and run with it. In the long term, you are going to do well, in my opinion. A lot of times though, long-term investors say that they're long-term investors, but they don't have high conviction. So maybe they buy in at 1080, 1090, and then the stock comes back down to fill that gap at 1010. And because they don't have a high enough conviction, they end up selling out in paper hand because they're like, oh, I thought the stock was going to keep running, I thought it was going to keep going, and they don't have a strong conviction in that long-term investment mentality that they needed to have, and so they sell out low, and then the stock turns around again and goes back up, and they're like, oh, I'm so bad at this. If you are a long-term investor and you invested around these levels right now, you gotta hold. I know many of you on here invested at $1,200 before, and you either dollar cost average down or you're still holding strong. And kudos to you, and I applaud that because you're holding strong. You have that conviction long term, and you're going to be rewarded for it eventually. And long term, I'm talking like 3 to 5 years minimum is long term. I'm holding for 10 years minimum. So you've got to play this out in your own head and see what it is, but just be careful because there's going to be a lot of FOMO out there that's going to drive the stock price higher, and maybe higher than it should be at this time, and we could get a pullback, especially knowing that we have this giant gap to fill between 1010 and 1065. And so for those of you who are looking for an entry point to get into the stock, perhaps at a lower price, again, nobody can tell what the future is going to hold. The stock could run up to $1,500 for all we know. But knowing the fundamentals of the company going to be strong long term, knowing how the stock gets manipulated in the short term, knowing that we have these gaps to fill when we're looking at technical analysis, there is a strong chance that you will have a good buying opportunity down around 1010, potentially down around 905, and we might get down to 801 if there is some strong macro environment issue that does bring us down. Now, speaking about the macro environment, we do need to recognize the fact that we did have 2 months of FUD that brought the entire market down. Now, it wasn't just fake FUD. This was real, uncertainty, real issues and negativity that's going on in the market. Inflation is extremely high. The interest rates are going up. We do have the Russia-Ukraine war going on. China has issues with Taiwan. Lots of different uncertainty, and we've got COVID breaking out again in random places all over the world. So lots of different things that are still reality and negative that could bring the stock market down. Now, when it comes to Tesla, if the stock price does come down, most likely it is going to be the same reason it came down before, and it's going to be all macro environment news. The fundamentals of the company have not changed since the beginning of the year. As a matter of fact, they've actually gotten stronger since the beginning of the year. The stock price is just now reflecting it in the short term due to the macro environment. And so I think the severity of the macro environment negativity that comes out in the next couple of months, it is what is going to determine which of these gaps are going to get filled for Tesla, and then that'll be your opportunity to buy more. Now my strategy is dollar cost averaging. I add $15 every single day into Tesla, and if it drops 1%, I add more. My strategy now going forward is if we drop 1%, I will add $5 for every percent that we drop until we get below 1,000. If we get below $1,000, I will change that to $10. In my IRA, I kind of made a mistake, but I made the play that I was planning on making, which was my 2 lowest cost average shares I sold out. I was originally going to sell them at $10.50, but then we got the news pre-market about the split announcement, so I changed that to a 1% limit stop. I wanted to put it in at 2%, I had it at 2, and I changed it. If I had it at 2, I would still be holding on to the shares right now, and I'd be higher, but mine ended up selling out at $10.60. I'm not upset because my strategy was to sell half and do that, and then if we continue to climb, I can monitor it and perhaps sell out of my other 2 shares. If we end up pulling back down, I have an alert set for $9.50, so if we drop down below $9.50, I will buy back in at that point. I will probably buy 1 share in at $9.50 and then see how the macro environment and the stock are trading, and might buy 1 at a lower price as well. And now this is just something I am doing in my Roth IRA because it's a tax-free account, so I don't have to worry about capital gains taxes on this money. And so for me, this is just something I'm playing around with. My main portfolio is strictly a buy and hold. My IRA, I'm working on some things like this. I know several of you in the comments, some of my subscribers, do this in their IRA, and they're able to gain shares by doing this. We know that Tesla does fluctuate in the stock price significantly, so I'm trying to utilize those fluctuations to gain some shares here and there. I'm not trying to time the market perfectly, I'm just trying to gain some profits and then buy in a little bit lower and gain some shares on top of it. So now going back to the split news, just some of the things that I had brought up because it's questions I had myself when I saw it, was they mentioned a dividend in there. It is not a dividend that we know of as we see with many stocks that are out there. It is called a dividend because when we issue more shares for the stock, the dividend gets paid out in the form of extra shares during that split. So if it splits 5-1, those extra shares are paid out in a dividend in a stock manner. Rather than a cash dividend, it is a stock dividend. So it's a one-time payout for those split shares. That's what the dividend means. So if any of you had seen that and had that question, because I know I did, that is what that means. So looking at the timing for the split, my prediction, my gut feeling is telling me, based upon the news that we have been getting over the last month or so, just kind of feeling the sentiment in the company and the stock itself, I have a gut feeling we are going to see a split in August at the same time we saw before. Now, a lot of people had different polls that they had out on Twitter today asking whether they think Tesla's going to split it a 4-1, 5-1, 10-1. Every single poll I saw showed a 10-1 split. I think this is going to be the case. Initially, I thought it was going to be a 5-1 split, but seeing as how the stock runs, I have a feeling we're going to see a 10-1 split. Perhaps we run up to $1,500 pre-split, which means that post-split we would come down to $150. These are my predictions. I'm predicting a 10-1 split at the end of August. Let me know in the comments below what your predictions are as far as timing on this split and what you think it's going to split at, be it 10-1, 5-1, 20-1, whatever it is. Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate all of your support and feedback. If you have not subscribed, please do so down below. Sign yourself up for notifications. I am over on Twitter at OracleTim1. I share all of the latest Tesla news, pertinent stock market information, and all of my daily trades. Thank you so much. Have a great one.